Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, this is my cat and this is me, and today's video is going to be a video that I'm very excited for because I am going to be reading nothing but Romantasy for the entirety of the week. I don't know how many I'm going to get to. I have a few that I would really love to read in this video because of the hype around them when it comes to the Romantasy genre. If you don't know what Romantasy is, it's basically romance and fantasy together. So it's not like romance is a subplot to the fantasy or the fantasy is a subplot to the romance. It's like fully 50% romantasy, you know, romance and fantasy. And so this is one of the videos that I'm the most excited for because both of those genres are some of my favorite genres to read. I am a romance lover first and a fantasy lover second, if not on the same tier. First and foremost, we are going to be starting with none other than Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco, which is the first book in the Kingdom of the Wicked series, I think. I'm not really sure what the name of the series is, to be honest. I'm so sorry. I wish I knew. This, I believe, is a trilogy, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But if you want to get into the Prince of Sin series, which is the new series that Carrie Maniscalco is writing, then you have to read this one first because this one kind of spoils what happens. Or this one is spoiled in the Prince of Sin series, and people say you should read this one because it's really good. I don't know what this one is about. All I know is that it's a romantasy and it's very popular, and I see it a lot of places and a lot of people talk about it. So I am going to get started with this and I'm very excited because it's only like 300 something pages and I feel like I'm really going to enjoy it because it's been a while since I've read romantasy or fantasy in general, and I feel like now is the time. And the one that I'm reading after this, I am so excited for. You have no idea. So with that being said, I am going to start with this one and I will see you when I have some thoughts because as of right now, no thoughts at empty. For a while, so I'm now on page 161, and it's basically, I'm not really sure how to explain it, to be honest. Follow our main character who is a witch and has a twin who is also a witch, and they were raised with their grandma and their mother. They're very protected, very like their maternal figures in their life keep them pretty much like away from all of these things. They don't like them to do any crazy things. One day the twin sister of our main character gets assassinated and the main character finds out her sister was apparently engaged to marry the Prince of Pride, if I'm not mistaken, and then she ends up mysteriously being assassinated, and then our main character summons the Prince of Wrath, who ends up being bound to her through like a blood oath situation where he has to protect her, otherwise he loses his powers. And so we just follow her trying to find out how her sister got assassinated and why, and basically being protected by the Prince of Wrath. And it's really interesting, really entertaining. I honestly am reading it very quickly. I did not expect to get through 160 pages of it today because usually with a romantasy there's a lot of world building, but I feel like with this one we were just kind of thrown in there, which sometimes can be a good thing because then that doesn't really give you the time to be like, I don't really understand what's going on. You just have to like be dumped straight into the deep end. I just wanted to give you like a little update. I believe I'm like almost halfway through. I would say I'm like 37%-ish, something like that. And I'm going to continue to read for a little bit longer tonight, and I will let you know if I have any more updates. But this might be my last book of the year as I'm filming this. Tomorrow is literally New Year's Eve, so this might be my last book of the year, which is very interesting because I started this year with Verity by Colleen Hoover and I'm ending it with Kingdom of the Wicked. So very different reading taste, but I'm not mad about it. welcome back. It is the next morning. I have finished Kingdom of the Wicked and I'm giving this one a 3.5 stars. I'm between like a 3.5 and a 3.75. I'm not really sure how I feel about it because it was entertaining, don't get me wrong, and the little thing that happens in the end when we find out who actually assassinated the sister is like the biggest plot twist that I've read in a very long time. Definitely didn't see it coming, but with that being said, it also felt like a little not any more than a 3.75 stars, I don't think. I feel like there's a lot better romantasy books out there. Not that this is bad by any means. I think once I get into the second book and the third book of the series, then I will really enjoy them. This one, it was just kind of okay. It's not like the best thing I've ever read and it's not the worst thing I've ever read. So a 3.5 stars to this one. Really enjoyed it and it was really entertaining and kept my attention. It was just meh, you know, like been there, done that type of situation. The next book that I'm going to be reading in this video is going to be Reign and Ruin, which is by J.D. Evans, and I'm going to be reading this one on my iPad. I hear a lot of people talk about this book, especially right now as I'm filming this. It's very popular. It's like one of the most popular romantasy books out there right now, and a lot of people, whenever I looked on the subreddit about the romantasy genre, a lot of people mentioned that this was their favorite romantasy book. So I am going to be reading it. I don't know what it's about. I don't know, no idea. All I know is that it is very popular. I'm very, very excited because I want to know what everybody's talking about. That's why I'm filming this video. So I will see you once I start it and once I have a little bit more thoughts on the matter, I guess. With the Reign and Ruin book, which turns out it's a series of interconnected standalones. So if you feel like reading one, you can. If you want to continue on with the rest of the story, they just follow different characters in the same universe. I really, really adored it. Honestly, I think it might be my favorite that I've read so far, which is not saying much considering I've only read 2, but it follows the story of this princess who is a sultana as well, and she is getting ready to take the throne from her father, who is the king, who is a sultan, because he is not feeling very well, and she is the next in line for the throne because her brother doesn't want to take the line to the throne. And this world contains magic, and she meets the enemy kingdom's prince, second prince in command, basically, and they decide to strike an alliance, even though there's really not supposed to be an alliance between these two nations because they've gone to war with each other, but they form an alliance and they fall in love, and it's the most beautiful romance I've ever read about. I gave this book 5 stars. If you love a king of like words of affirmation and acts of service, then he is your guy. He is one of the most like lovable men that I've ever read about. He believes in the main character so much. If you ever feel like as a person like you don't have anybody to believe in you, or if you feel like you are the black sheep or that nobody understands you, this book is for you because the main character is a badass woman who is so powerful and so feared because her mother also was a very powerful woman, and so she takes after her mother. She's like this very powerful woman who is like a commanding presence, and then we have the man who does not even want to rule. There's multiple times where he tells her, he's like, you do whatever you need to do. If I have to be in the background, I'm totally okay with that. Nobody has to see me. I just want to support your cause. I just want to be with you. I just want to see you and see you succeed and be with you while you succeed. He is the most like, just like the most wholesome man ever, and the spice when I got to it was so tasteful and so beautifully done, and I could talk about this book for ages. Honestly, I gave it 5 stars. I really adored it, really loved it. I read it in 2 sittings because the beginning is very, very slow. That's my only gripe with this book. You have to really push through the first like 100 pages. Then once you pass that, I really almost DNF'd it in the first 50 pages because I just really could not understand the magic system. It felt very complicated, very complex, very interesting, but also at the same time, I felt like I wasn't really understanding where it was going. But then once I passed the 75-page mark, I absolutely adored it and I couldn't put it down. And I was telling everybody that would listen that they should read this book because it's so incredibly good and so beautifully done. The romance is beautiful. The fantasy world is beautiful. I definitely see myself picking up the rest of the books in the series like at different times just to be back in the world because the writing is flowery but not too flowery. If you love beautiful writing, then I think you would adore this book. If you love a good protagonist, a strong female lead, then I think you would really, really adore this book and really appreciate it. So like I said, 5 stars. No comments, concerns, questions, just adore it so much, and I definitely recommend it. 5 out of 5 stars. And now we are going to move into the third book of this video, which I am going to start today. I feel like it's going to be Thrown in the Dark, I believe it's called, by A.K. Caggiano. I'm not really sure what this one is about, but I do love the cover, and it's so bright and so beautiful, and I think it's going to be really, really fun. I have seen it circling around the internet. Some booktubers that I watch have talked about it. I've seen it like around Pinterest, and I really just adore the cover. I love a cover like this because it's beautiful and it's also romantasy, so I feel like I'm really going to enjoy it. And that is the plan for today. I am going to be thinking about Rain and Ruin for a very long time, I feel like. I'm not gonna tell you should read it. I'm not gonna force you to read it. But if I catch you and I ask you if you've read it or not and you tell me no, then we're gonna have a problem. Okay, bye. Okay. Started with Thrown in the Dark. I don't know why I can't remember the name of that book. I don't really know how I feel about it, to be honest, because it feels very different from Rain and Ruin, which I'm obviously not supposed to compare the two, but I don't know how to like feel about it because Rain and Ruin was so like a royalty, fantasy, romantasy, like stuff happening. This one feels much more like a comedy romantasy, if that makes any sense. So we follow Damien, who is this man whose father got trapped in a piece of stone, who was trapped there by a man, and his son creates a talisman that he wants to take to the man who imprisoned his dad and make him unimprisoned as that, which I'm that whole thing I'm not really 100% on. In the process of that happening, we meet the main girl character who ends up in an altercation with Damien, and somehow the talisman gets absorbed into her and like inside of her, and so now they have to work together, and the only way that he can take the talisman out, which frees his dad, is by killing her. I don't really know how I feel about it because of the way that it's written. It feels very modern. It doesn't feel like a fantasy that's not in this world. It feels very much in this world. It is very, very funny. I will say that I do find myself laughing a little bit here and there. The characters are really, really comedic. There's a lot of comedic relief in it because obviously she has to die at some point, and he can command her to do things by saying this specific word that acts on the talisman. So he'll say the word and be like, don't tell anyone about this, and then she wouldn't be able to tell anybody about this. Very different from Reign and Ruin. I don't know that I am doing it a favor by comparing the two, but I don't think this one is going to be a 5-star at all. I am, like I said, 100 pages in, and the ebook is like 300 pages, 290, something like that. But I do believe that this one is a trilogy, if I'm not mistaken. It is a series, and it's like a very clean romance. So there's no spice in this one. I heard that the only book out of the 3 that has spice is the last book. Don't know if I'm going to continue on with the rest of the series, I'm not gonna lie, because as of right now, I'm like, I'm kind of with the story, but I'm kind of not. If you read Assistant to the Villain, I would do the comparison that these two are very, very similar, and with Assistant to the Villain, I liked it, but I don't feel like I'm missing out by not finishing the rest of the series because I believe it is a series. I read the first book and then I was like, okay, I think I'm kind of done with that type of like no high stakes story. This one feels very just silly and fun, even though you know that the girl is going to die at some point. Maybe my feelings will change once I'm a little bit further into the book, but at 100 pages right now, I don't really feel like she's going to die in the end. It feels very much like, oh, they're gonna find a way to make her able to survive because it's just such a comedic fantasy, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I don't feel like the whole, we gotta go, we gotta get this done, like I did with Reign and Ruin, because Reign and Ruin also had like life or death situations. This one just feels like, okay, I'm going to read it a little bit more, and then I will come back to you if I have any more updates before I finish the book. With Thrown in the Dark by A.K. Caggiano. It was really, really entertaining while I did read it. I really liked the story. It was really, really funny. Like, genuinely one of the funniest, most self-aware fantasy I've read in a while, because it would be like, the dude is talking and he's like, I'm a villain, and the girl will roll her eyes and he's like, I am a villain, I did all these things that are horrible and this is why I'm a villain. I liked the way that it was written, but also it was very different. It felt very modern romance fantasy instead of like a Reign and Ruin type of romance. And also I wanted to mention, while I am talking about Reign and Ruin, it had a lot of like Middle Eastern, Mediterranean vibes to it, and I forgot to mention that when I was talking about it, and it has a lot of like Arabic words in it that I was able to understand. Yeah, Thrown in the Dark was very, very different to Reign and Ruin, and I think I did Thrown in the Dark a disservice by reading Reign and Ruin before it, but it is what it is, and the plot twist that happens in the end of Thrown in the Dark was really entertaining and really not something that I expected to happen, so at least it caught me off guard with that. I don't know if I'm going to continue on with the rest of the series, I'm not going to lie, just because it feels a little YA romantasy, and I have nothing against YA, it's just that I would prefer to read a lot more of an adult romantasy, if that makes any sense, because I don't want to be reading about people they're like 16, 17 when I am 10 years older. So I decided to give it 3.5 stars, I believe, and I am going to stick with that rating for now. If I do change my mind, then I will let you know. But the next book that I will be starting is going to be This Woven Kingdom by Tahira Mafi, who is the author of so many books, and specifically the Shatter Me books that everybody and their mother adores. I love Tahira Mafi. She is one of my favorite authors of all time. I feel like a very close knit relationship with her because I've been reading her books since I first started reading like very seriously, and Aaron Warner is like my favorite book boyfriend ever. Nobody has ever outdone him. I don't think anybody ever will. I have a tattoo of the word ignite on my body, so I really adore Tahira Mafi. I love the way that she writes books. I love the way that she writes a relationship and how much she builds tension and like so much care between the characters that when they finally get together, you're like, oh my god, finally, and you root for them because of the way that she writes them and how much longing and angst she puts into her books. I don't know what this one is about, but I have heard that this is also kind of like along the Middle Eastern type of fantasy, romantasy, like Middle Eastern, Mediterranean type of vibe, which I'm very excited for. Like I said, I loved Rain and Ruin, and also it had a lot of Middle Eastern influences to the story, so I think I'm going to enjoy this one as well. This has been on my TBR for a very long time, and I low-key didn't want to start it now because I know it's not finished yet. It's going to be a 5-book series from what I know, and we're only on book 3, but book 4 I believe is supposed to be published this year, so I don't know, we'll see. But it was on my series that I wanted to start this year, so I am going to be starting it, and I am very excited. Hours later, and I have been reading This Woven Kingdom, and for some reason I keep wanting to call it The Unwoven Kingdom. That's not the name. I am 300 pages in, and it's about this girl who is like the lost queen of the jinn, Jinn, so like demons, and this man who is the heir to the throne. And there's like years and years ago, decades ago, there was a prophecy that came out that said that the lost queen of the jinn is the reason that the king of the heir's kingdom will fall apart. Because Kamran is the heir to the throne, his grandfather is in charge and he is the king, and he tasks Kamran with being like, you need to find her so we can kill her. But he doesn't want her to be killed because he feels so different with her than he feels with anybody else. He's like down horrendous, in love with her, eyes closed, blind. Like, think of how Aaron loves Juliet. That's how Kamran loves her. And they've just met like only a handful of times, but he's so down horrendous for her and he wants to protect her. It's like a enemies to lovers, but not really enemies, because she's not letting herself love him, but he already loves her and he's trying to protect her, and he doesn't want her to be killed because he's the one that brought attention to her by being like, oh, I think she's jinn, to his kingdom, or like to his grandfather, and now his grandfather is hunting her, but he's trying to help her hide, so he she doesn't get killed. So it's really, really entertaining. It's definitely more rooted in the Middle Eastern culture. I'm really, really enjoying it. Like I said, I love me a good Tara Mafi book because she writes the most beautiful men in love. They're so pathetically in love that they can't see straight, and like they just want to protect the girl so bad, and I just love it so much because it reminds me of reading Shatter Me, but this one is written more beautifully, and it's very slow burny, but in the best way possible, because when you finally get to the parts when they're getting together, it's so beautifully done that you just feel like you are the one experiencing it, which is beautiful. So I'm going to hopefully finish this today because I really don't want to put it down. I really want to continue reading it. I have been reading all morning, and I'm going to continue reading for a little bit more, and I will come back to you with my rating, which I'm pretty sure is not hard to guess. So finished with this Woven Kingdom, and let me just say, the ending, not something I saw coming at all. It definitely surprised me. It's definitely something that I didn't expect to happen, especially not with the person reveal that we got, because there's, in the end, there's like a couple of people that you get to see who they actually are in the story, because they do talk to our main character, but we don't know who they are because they never say who they are, and our main character kind of doesn't know any better, and so when they get revealed in the end of the book, it's like this big shock to everyone, including the reader, and I really loved it. Obviously, I am a little bit biased because it is Tahira Mafi and she is one of my favorite authors of all time. So obviously I'm giving this one 5 stars because simply of the fact that I adore her as a woman, as an author, and she created Aaron Warner and Juliet and Kenji. So like I can't even give it anything less. And also with the non-biased, I do think that this book was written really, really well and really interestingly, to the point where it's like slow burn, but not too slow burny, if you know what I mean. Like by the time that the two characters get together, it's like, finally, give me something, you know? But it makes it so much more fun to read because I don't typically read a lot of slow burn romances, and so when I do read them and something does happen, like I just feel like I'm the one experiencing it. And so it's really, really fun for me to read slow burn romances every once in a while. I wouldn't read them all the time because I feel like that would just really test my patience, and I don't want that for me. I will say the only thing about this is that it's a very slow book. So if you don't like slow books and slow beginnings, then you would not like this book. But I expected that going into it because of Shatter Me. For me, the first book of Shatter Me series went by really, really slow, and I really almost DNF'd it to the point where I did not want to continue on with the rest of the Shatter Me series, but somehow I pushed through the first book even though it was the slowest and the most boring in my opinion. So I am thinking that this series will probably follow the same way that the Shatter Me series followed, and that this book is going to be the slowest of them all, and then the second book and the third book will be a lot more interesting, and we'll get to know the characters a lot more, and the world will be built a lot more intricately. And so I'm very, very excited. Like I said, 5 stars, really loved it, and I definitely do recommend it. And that is the last book of this video, so let's go to the outro. So that is it, you guys, for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know down below if you did and which one of these were your favorite. If you've read any of these books, let me know down below. I really, really enjoy reading the romantasy genre. I really, really adored, I think my favorite probably will be Rain and Ruin, and then probably This Woven Kingdom, and then Thrown in the Dark, because I really, really, really adored Rain and Ruin. And I think, like I said, I will probably be continuing on with the rest of the series, but like in separate videos where I will read different ones across different videos, because I feel like you don't really have to read them in order, so you can read them whenever you want. I'll absolutely be continuing on with the rest of the This Woven Kingdom series because, like I said, Tahira Mafi, that's my girl. I love her, I adore everything she writes, and she is one of my favorite authors, so I will definitely be continuing on with the rest of that book series. With that being said, that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know down below if you enjoyed and which one of these were your favorites, and I will see you guys again next week with another video. Treat yourself to something nice. Hope you have the very best day, and see you soon. Bye!